to the BK Show podcast. This is episode number 15, and today I am joined by the co-founder of ConversionFanatics.com, Justin Christianson. Justin is also the author of a book called Conversion Fanatic, and I want to do something a little different this time, and so I want to give away some copies of Justin's book before this podcast even starts. So if you go to thebkshow.com, click the newsletter link in the header and sign up for my newsletter, as well as leave a review on iTunes. It's okay if you've already left one. And then just send me an email, info@thebkshow.com, and send me a picture of your review, and I'll see you on my mailing list, and I will reach out to 10 of you and give a copy of his book to you for free. So again, simply go to thebkshow.com, sign up for the newsletter, leave a review on iTunes, and then send me an email. Let me know which review is yours, and I will give away 10 copies of this book. If you are an e-commerce store owner who's listening to this, you need Justin in your business. You need all the things he's talking about today. So please enjoy this episode with my good friend, Justin Christianson. Hey, welcome to the show, buddy.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So you are the co-founder and president of Conversion Fanatics, totally straight off the LinkedIn here, a full-service conversion rate optimization company helping companies like Burt's Bees, Renew Life, Paleo Valley, Lumber Liquidators, Ministry of Supply, and many more, including one of my previous companies, increase conversions and marketing performance by 30% to 1,850%. I think I'm going to need to hear about that case study. And then you're the author of Conversion Fanatic, How to Double Your Customer Sales and Profits with A/B Testing. Definitely everyone listening, go grab that on Amazon. It's a good book.
Yeah, thanks.
What can you tell me about Conversion Fanatic? Let's just jump right at that big number, 1,850%. Tell me about that. That's amazing.
That was fun. That's what that was, from a marketing perspective, for sure. So it was a beauty company in our early days of the business that it was a subscription beauty company, and we drove up. I think they had like 6,000 subscribers when we started, and they had 22,000 or something more when we were ending in about 10 months. And we dropped their customer acquisition cost about 80%. It was just hair on fire, go, 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 go. They were able to keep up with the demand and the fulfillment side of things. And it's just straight up rocket ship growth.
Is that all CRO though, or are you helping with traffic?
We had traffic on that one too. So we were able to switch up their offer, and that was back in the, they had been trying to run with a free trial offer forever. And, it was just bringing in terrible customers. They would get their freebie and then they would bail. So their retention was just absolutely terrible. And they were spending anywhere from $75 to $80 to acquire a customer. We switched up the offer, gave them more free stuff, essentially gave them bonuses in their first order, and adjusted the marketing. And we were able to get down at one point. I still remember this. It was hilarious. We had retargeting customers coming in for 25 cents a piece.
Customers, not just traffic.
Customers coming in at 25 cents a piece on retargeting. So subscription customers. We got it as low at scale. I think our cold audiences were like in the $10 to $15 range. So they went from needing 5 months to basically get their money back on those customers to like they were profitable minute one. So
isn't that what beauty is, right? Like they happily lose money to acquire the customer in hopes that they stick around for a long time.
Yeah. And it's changed a lot. I mean, this is 5 years ago too, or more even, but it's changed quite a bit. My philosophy is still obviously give them bonuses versus racing to the discount or free to start, but that still hasn't changed. But yeah, beauty has changed a little bit in that fact that there's a lot more people grabbing at the same attention with the onslaught of Instagram influencers and all of the things and the ease that Shopify has made it, and all of those elements. Well,
it's a busy space too, right? Like the ability to exit at 5 to 10x revenue, not your profit, revenue in that space is enticing to, a lot of sharks, I guess, coming in there to mucky up the waters.
Yeah, there's a lot of noise in there for sure.
But like 1,850%, that's incredible. So like, did you have experience in that? I know way back in the day, and I'd love to, dive way back. You were an affiliate marketer. Is that a space you were in back then?
So no, I wasn't. But I was in the subscription space. I'd always had some subscription elements to any of my businesses, and even driving out some subscription elements. Because back, even when I started, there wasn't e-commerce, there wasn't, the physical goods, Amazon didn't exist, in all of those things. So it wasn't necessarily buying the physical products online as prominent, because I've been doing this, almost 20 years. So we were more so the info side and physical newsletters and in those items, but still on subscription. So when it came to applying some of those same direct response principles that I had learned and adapted over many years, it was just an easy transition. Just now instead of shipping a physical newsletter or a book or a CD case or whatever, we're shipping lotions and potions.
Well, I'd love to actually dive into specific tactics, and I know you hate that. You're like, nothing works on every website. You should test. I know you're going to go there, but I'd love to actually talk through some e-commerce stuff a little bit later in the episode, as that's where I live, and I'm sure you could help everyone listening to this that is an e-commerce operator as well. But can we go way back? Like, being in it 20 years makes you sound old. You're not old. You're a young man. I think we're right around the same age, and so, but you've been in the game way longer than me. I think you started back when I was getting out of high school, right? I think you said 2002 when I spoke to you in person in California. So I'd love to know, what did that look like back then? Where did it all begin?
So I actually grew up in a very, very small town in rural North Dakota, about 15 miles south of the Canadian border. Town of 400 people, small farming community. It doesn't
get more rural than that out there, does it?
No, it doesn't. 400 people. Literally, my graduating high school class was 36 people.
There you go.
So out of high school, I went actually to become an electrician. I'm an electrician by trade. I have a degree in industrial electrical technology. I was a coal miner. That kind of went through I was the youngest maintenance electrician ever hired on the largest surface coal mine in the United States, at 19 years old, I believe. No, 20. I was hired at 20. Actually, no, I was 19 when I got hired, and I turned 20 when I was working there. But, and then I just got interested in business. A friend of mine introduced me to network marketing, back MLM, kind of like, hey, do you want to make some extra money? And I liked the products, and I just got a glimpse of it. And then I started on my personal development journey, all while touring in a band. So
I'm starting to remember our conversation. Like, we had a lot in common growing up. I live kind of rural as well, outside of the Twin Cities here in Wisconsin. North Dakota is a lot more rural. But I remember, I was sitting there this morning trying to take notes on this podcast of like remembering our conversation from that mastermind where we met. And now it's all coming back to me. I forgot you were a rock star.
Yeah, I toured in a band in my early 20s, which got me introduced to one of my bandmates and longtime friend. We can go way, way back. And I was even a rodeo guy before that. I rode
tell the story.
I was a rodeo bull rider through high school. So literally from the time I was 13 till I was about 21 or 22, I was a competitive rodeo bull rider during the summers, and toured in the band after that. And one of my bandmates actually was my old rodeo mate. And we had dabbled in playing music together throughout high school too. And we ended up being in a top club band in the Midwest, in North Dakota, Minnesota. We actually toured into the Twin Cities and, St. Cloud area and Bemidji and Brainerd in Minnesota. And then he introduced me to kind of network marketing and spiraled out of control from there. And I quickly figured out that I did not like bumping into people and just asking them if they wanted to make some extra money, and found the internet. And, this was back, I guess, 2003, 2004, when it was just really the Wild West.
What was the MLM of the day back then?
I was in Quicks, which was Amway, I guess, is now. So way back then.
I have a ton of people I can't log into Facebook without being offered a shake or some weight loss routine or skincare routine. And it's just a lot of people are into it, and it's great. I think it's possibly a good first start into marketing. Possibly, I think making your first dollar that it doesn't come from a job is something. It's worth something, right? But man, I didn't know they were around that long. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, this was Amway goes way back to like the 70s, and then they became Quickstar in North America, and then I got in there, and I guess that was my first taste at real personal development, because, growing up in a rural farming community, it's go to work hard, get your good job, blue collar, roll up your sleeves. And I didn't know that much about business other than my dad was fairly entrepreneurial. But to me, that was just what he did. It wasn't like, oh, hey, you're a business owner and, you have all of these things. He never had like a big list of employees and all of those things. He was just kind of worked for himself and in various capacities. So I kind of got that work ethic from him and my parents growing up. But I realized I was doing the whole marketing thing. I was making, at the time, just peanuts, but I was making peanuts at my job too. So I was working another 80-hour week on top of a scissor lift, building a building, running and pulling wire, being an electrician. And I just realized like, I can't do this anymore. And this was at, 24 years old. And I had, engaged and about to get married, and made the decision 2 months before I got married in 2005 to make the jump. And I was just making pennies. I was hardly making anything a month, even in my business at the time. But I just made the jump. It's like, if I'm making this part-time, what's going to happen if I go full-time? And at the time I was doing affiliate marketing and not really doing so much MLM, but mostly generating leads, selling courses, being an affiliate on the back end until I had some credibility for myself.
What does that look like in 2005, right? Like on both fronts, the MLM front, I can't even imagine. Right now, it's all, like I said, Web 2.0, right? You're pre that. You're pre-posting on Facebook and DMing everybody and getting in Facebook groups and doing Facebook Lives. Like, what were you doing back then? And then talk to me through the affiliate stuff back then.
Literally bumping into people. At the time, I lived in Fargo, so a little bit bigger town, 100,000 people or so at the time. So, going into the bookstore, running into people in Walmart and, at the coffee shop and all of these things, and just trying to get it in, and then do home meetings. And we would bring out the whiteboard and draw the circles and do the whole works. We'd try to bring 5-6 people to a meeting and have our upline come in and give presentations. And man, it was very, very old school belly to belly networking.
Yeah, that sounds terrible.
It was terrible. And I was not good at it. I like to think I'm pretty good at sales, but back then it was like, there's got to be an easier way to do that. And found a course, way back then, like Rich Jerk, Corey Rudel's stuff, rest in peace to him. But, just found the internet, the way of things like, hey, what do you mean I can create a basic website? And back then, the big thing was Double Your Dating, David D'Angelo, Evan Pagan type stuff. So he had this very simple landing page and was doing millions of dollars selling these information courses. And I had leveraged some stuff for network marketing to generate some leads. And I became the number one affiliate for that program. And
for Evan Pagan's Double Your Dating program?
No, at the time it was Mike Dillard's Magnetic Sponsoring, which I later became partners on, and sold it and did all of these other things, which I can get into. But
yeah, I'd love to.
So I was generating leads using his program, his book. He, sell this $37 book and you get to keep 50% of the profits, and very simple system. And people would kind of come back into the system. Then I got a second tier commission, and I kind of stumbled across SEO at the time, and Google Ads was basically the Wild West. It was brand new. So I remember just learning as I go and just failing absolutely miserably at a lot of things. And I stumbled across SEO back when it was super, super easy. WordPress was brand new. So you'd create a free WordPress link, basic blog, link it to run an e-zine article, link it to your WordPress, your free WordPress site. It was just subdomain. Then from there, you'd link the same article to your actual landing page. And I remember waking up one day and somebody telling me, he's like, hey, check this out. And I had 7 out of the top 10 first page rankings for me. And I was like, how did you do that? He's like, no, you did that. I was like, I was just writing articles. Like, I didn't even know how to do it at the time. And with that, it was, keyword stuffing and keyword hijacking for the product name. People would search for it. I built a big list from that, and then a product launch came, and I was still cookied and all of these things. And I remember making my first like big hurrah. I think I made like $7,500 on an affiliate promotion or something. And I was like over the top amazed that I could do that, because I had never at that point even made that in a single month. Just got the attention of the owner, and my business partner at the time, we basically created a course. My first ever info product was a thing called Just Add Traffic, which basically we taught everybody how to build landing pages in Microsoft Front Page.
I don't even know what that is.
It was the thing back then. It was literally tables. You'd drop in tables, edit your content. You'd have to export and then upload via FTP to the index file. And I didn't even know what an index file was back then. We didn't have these fancy tools, landing page builders and funnel builders, and we had to do it hard, the old school way. And we sold that course on a promotion. I think we made like $26,000 or $27,000 on the promotion to our list. Sold this physical book that we got on credit from the fulfillment house, because we didn't have money to print a bunch of them, and we didn't know how many we were going to sell. So I think we printed an original like 100 copies, and it was this giant binder, like 300 pages of like just craziness, and like 10 CDs, like DVDs, where you'd put them in your computer and it would show videos of us. And that was before, when video was even painful, in huge files. And it was just crazy to think about how far we've come technologically. And from there, caught the attention of the business owner, that Mike Dillard. I was number one affiliate. He wanted to expand the business. We partnered up with another guy, Tim, and grew that company. I think we grew at 450% in revenue the first year, another 120% the next year. Then it was just my time to leave. I was just not feeling it anymore. So I'd sold my partnership back to them. I guess this got 12 years ago now. Sold it back to them and went along, kind of started a private consultancy, teaching what I had learned. Basically, I'd published a bunch of information to our students on, my split test results and optimization and implementation and setting up pages and kind of my SEO learnings and all of these things. And people really came to know me as the kind of get stuff done guy. And so I was just always faster than anybody else and just got it done quicker than everybody else.
Was Dillard like self-made man back then? Is that I don't know a ton about him. I just met him recently, but I don't even know his whole story either. I'd love to have Mike.
That's way before that.
Okay.
Way before that. So his kind of claim to fame originally was magnetic sponsoring. So he had wrote a book about it and adapted multiple different versions. We had, a dozen different courses, a mastermind, live events. We had all of those things way back, 06, 07, 08 kind of range. And then that adapted into later what Elevation Group, and then, he had Self-Made Man, and then more recently Mike Dillard Mentoring and all of that stuff. But
you know why I love interviewing people like you guys? Like you're talking about 06, so we're talking 15 years ago, and you're just brushing off. Yeah, we had a live event, we had a master, like all this stuff that I sit up at night and I dream about and I write in my notebook of like where I'm going to go. You're just brushing off is like no big deal. This is why I enjoy talking to people like you, because it normalizes things for me.
Yeah, it's awesome to think about that I've been able to establish a career this long and see all the changes that I have and have some longevity in the space. But at the same time, I don't think I'm very old.
You're not, right?
Well, I'll be 40 next month. So we're in a month, and about a month and a couple weeks. So yeah, I've been at it since my early 20s. And to think that I've been able to establish that and basically start over on several different occasions and end up where I'm at, I think back and be like, man, that was already 3 years ago that I did that. And, now what's next, to think about what's the evolution and what's next. But anyway, I sold the company back to them. Didn't know what I was going to do really. Started a private consultancy, just me and basically a graphic designer. I was doing split testing and funnel builds and all of those things. And I mean, that's even before, ClickFunnels was even a thing. There was still old school, had to build it the hard way. Upsells were painful, didn't really exist. So we were building funnels, helping people launch promotions and do all those things. I think I had 8 or 10 clients at the time, doing everything myself, running crazy, no leverage whatsoever, scrambling every single day. But then I partnered up, got talking with my longtime friend Manish, who's now my business partner. He had basically doing the same thing, but he had a small team. He had a project manager and he had a developer and a designer and all of the things that I didn't. And he had a very systems processed mind where I don't. I'm very much go and break stuff and just do whatever it takes to get it done. And he's very methodical and puts pieces in organized fashion and allows other people to be able to learn that process and then apply those same principles. So without him, we wouldn't have Conversion Fanatics where it is today for sure. And that was over 7 years ago that, we're coming up on our 7th birthday right now, here in just a couple months. So we've been preaching the same thing, doing the same thing for over 7 years and just, all built upon 15 years of, of previous life and experience and marketing knowledge and understanding.
If you don't mind, I'd love to ask a question about so you are the best affiliate for a course, right? And it makes total sense for Mike Diller to bring you in and just bring you on the team, right? Why have you as an affiliate? Why not partner and grow the thing? You decide it's time to leave, which I'm sure wasn't an easy decision, right? And you kind of go out on your own. Why agency work, right? You got known as the guy who could do things. Why agency? I would assume at some point you were like, well, I've been selling courses for a long time. I've been selling info products. Why didn't you immediately just jump right into the info product space, selling all the CRO knowledge you had?
Stupidity, probably. I mean, ignorance.
I'm just curious.
Well, it all happened very, very fast. It was like, I didn't have a plan B. I didn't have another plan. I didn't have another thing. It was like, hey, I'm done. 3 days later, we sign the papers, come to an agreement, we sell the deal, I'm out. And I'll be here to transition for a couple months. It's not like the normal exit that people think, like a ton of due diligence and you're going through all of this paperwork and back and forth. It was very simple, very quick. I wanted to keep the relationships more than I wanted to fight about it. And I'm glad I did. I still pride myself on not being able to burn bridges in business after all of these years, because my reputation is everything to me. But I just didn't know any better. I didn't have the first clue about doing an agency. I just knew that I could do this work and people had a need for it and they would pay me to do it. But it did come full circle. When I started talking with Manish, we were like, hey, why don't we just teach this stuff? That's how Conversion Fanatics started. Is we were called something like ROI Society and ROI Masterclass. We were like, you got this traffic piece. What about the conversion piece? And we were just going to teach it. We had a webinar. We did the whole funnel build. We had the bribes, the upsells, the downsells, the whole works. Nobody wanted to buy it. Like all of our marketing knowledge, nobody gave a damn about the conversion piece and learning how to split test. The number one question we got was, can you just do this for me? And that launched the first client and then the next one and the next one and the next one. And
so when you're out there selling, you're selling the what, right? You're not getting on a webinar and teaching the how, maybe a little bit of how, but you're selling the what and the sexiness of like increasing conversion rate and what that could do for your bottom line and how that might change your lifetime customer value. And even then, when everyone's psyched up, they were like, it sounds great. Like I want all these things in my business, but I don't want to do any of the work.
Yeah. That's what it boiled down to. And We started off with our first client, paying us a couple $1,000, and we still didn't have systems or processes or really know. We just done it for ourselves. At that point, I tested thousands of split tests up until that point, but I didn't know the first thing about applying it to multiple businesses and, how to help this other guy. I just knew that, hey, I'm good at marketing. Let's go help this person, whatever it takes. And the product has changed dramatically and evolved, quite a bit as we've worked with larger and larger brands. But it was just crazy that only lasted a few months, of like, we're stupid for trying to continue to beat this and seeing if we can make it work. And we spent, we threw $750 in a bank account. That's how it all started. And it was just like, we're going to spend just basic stuff, shopping cart and webinar platform and some hosting, and off we went. And we were all pretty seasoned at that point in time.
So I do similar to what you're doing. I consult with a lot of people, and I end up teaching them mostly SEO and AdWords. And we'll, whatever they're paying me, we'll go through it for that amount of time, right? Usually work on like a 3 to 6 month basis, and it never fails. Every single person I work with at the end goes, "Hey man, what would it cost me to pay you to do this?" And so I'm curious, like your own struggle, like making that transition. And this is pretty selfish of me to ask, but I want to know, what were the struggles there? What was it like making that transition? How did you build out the systems? How did you make the economics work, right? Because like I could do all that, but it would take a ton of my time to sit there and manage someone's AdWords or manage someone's SEO, right? Like how did you build the systems to back yourself out of there and bring in people?
Well, I didn't know the first thing about starting an agency and the service business. Not a clue. Manish didn't either. We failed absolutely. We fell on our face more times than I can probably count. But luckily for me, Manish and I are very opposite, which I kind of mentioned. He is very much strategic and methodical, and I'm very much just Wild West, guns blazing. And I think that balance allows us to take some of the calculated risks and fall on our face, but still learn from it and quickly adapt and evolve. So when we went into the service business, we didn't know what our product was specifically. We didn't know how to sell it. We just knew like, hey, we have a big network of all of these people that could potentially use it. So we tapped that market. And then it's like, okay, that's done. Now what could we do? And for the longest time in the initial phases of the business, we struggled to even get 6 clients and there was a year where we didn't get paid. It's just like we struggled. And slowly, the whole struggle was we were trying to apply our direct response marketing brain to growing a service business. And still to this day, we are not able to place an ad, do a lead magnet, go to a sales message. The traditional funnel elements do not apply to our business. People do not buy from that. And it's been our struggle ever since. It's weird to think that guys that can generate tens of thousands of leads on a monthly basis can't generate leads for their own business, because it's a B2B scenario. There's a lot of education that goes involved in it. So how did we get to where we are? Basically, continuous daily improvement. We just try to improve something every single day, whether that be how we communicate with clients, how we effectively quality check our work, how do we present ourselves from a branding perspective, what we say no to, what we say yes to, just everything that I literally hit the floor, my feet hit the floor every single morning, and I wonder, how can I do something a little bit better than I did it yesterday? And I don't care what that is, but as long as we're smarter in some capacity. And really the hardest part for me is to been accepting patience. So being patient in the process and embracing the journey from a personal development perspective has been very, very difficult. I'm one of the most impatient people ever. Yesterday is not fast enough for me. So when I don't see my team living up to that level of urgency of everything, it's been hard for me to let go and just let them do it. So we've gotten very good about hiring and firing and hire. And one of the keys, I think, too, is we hire a lot of young people or fresh people. So our team is, I'm the oldest person, with the exception of one person, by quite a few years. Aside from Manish and I and one other person. They're all, millennials fresh out of school in their mid to late 20s, early 30s. And I think they bring that fresh perspective of, different aspects and positioning and a different outlook on things than I do, having been in the business for 20 years. What's common sense and commonplace to me isn't necessarily for them. And I think that mesh combined with a good solid process and system, which that too is constantly changing. But it brings a unique edge to it in that the passion that comes across from our clients is carried over to our team and vice versa. So we have a lot of clients that have great products and we just do whatever it takes to get the client results. And our team, because we built that kind of culture around it, is our team is and lives by that passion, and they truly care. Like there'll be often times where just something needs to get done and we'll be messaging back and forth with people at 9 or 10 o'clock at night on the team, just because they just want to get it done and make sure we're doing a good job because they believe in what we're doing so much. So it's a combination of a lot of branding, a lot of patience, a lot of trial and error, a lot of just evolvement. And, we're a completely different company than we were even 6 months ago, and we're a completely different company than we were 2 years ago. And we're most certainly a different company than we were 4 or 5 years ago. And we've gotten just better in all of these aspects, and it did not happen overnight. Whereas in digital marketing or info or something, you can make pivots like that, just completely turn things around, make adjustments fast. Here, we make a change. We might not see the ramifications of that for 6 months because we've got a little bit bigger ship to steer now, and we don't see the effects for 3 to 6 weeks at least.
I considered doing the whole agency thing just because I get asked so often to help on that side, or at least find someone I can recommend at the very minimum. But I start thinking through the possible headaches. And so you've been doing this 7 years. Do you mind sharing some of like the epic flops? Like, was there, contract disputes with a client, or like, tell me all the things that you failed at in the beginning that you learned the hard way building an agency.
So fortunately we've only ran into a couple instances where it's like, this is just strictly not working. We've had a couple disputes, but nothing major. Like we haven't seriously butted heads with a lot of people, just because I think what differentiates us is we just actually give a damn about, it isn't just another dollar for us. My reputation's everything to me. And if I can't deliver, I'm going to make sure I do everything in my power to deliver. And I think that comes across in everything. But some flops, mishiring is a big one. We've failed miserably at. We had some toxic people that came in to the organization, and they kind of spread that toxicity around to everybody else, to the point where some of the staff absolutely hated me. And it reflected on some of the.
Were you late on getting rid of them, or why did they hate you?
Well, they hated me while I was there because they just didn't like my perspective on things, and they thought I was stepping on their toes. And I remember one of our staff members come running into my office one day because I answered a client, and she's like, "You're undermining my authority with the client, and you're doing all this stuff." And like, he was yelling at me. So it was adjusting that toxicity, getting some people that were saying that they were doing stuff and they weren't actually doing it. Because we're in a people heavy business. If you want to leverage and scale it, you got to be people heavy. And we've learned that the hard way too, is more people doesn't necessarily mean more better results, which I'll get into kind of what our process is here in a second. Now that it's the most effective it's absolutely ever been. But some of the, let's see, hiring's probably the biggest one. Continually going back and thinking ads are going to actually save us, and help us generate leads. But I guess, the biggest one has just been around hiring. Forcing relationships with clients that we maybe not be able to help. So we've kind of forced some, like, hey, we got some bills to pay. Let's make this happen. And, luckily we've never missed a payroll, no matter even when we had two, Manish and I have definitely missed some payrolls, but some paychecks, but none of our staff has. We've just tried to make it a really good place to work, but
you mentioned a few times like struggling to get leads, but in the intro here, I'm reading right off your LinkedIn, Burt's Bees, Paleo Valley, like these are big companies, right? Lumber Liquidators. What was the transition from we don't know how to get leads to all of a sudden leads start flowing in? Were you in Austin this whole time? Did that help with any of it?
Yeah. So I moved in Austin in 2007. So yeah, all through this journey. So, right in the middle of that whole magnetic sponsoring growth thing, I moved to Austin, which is where Mike is and where I currently am. But yeah, Conversion Fanatics is here. Everybody's here. We're not outsourced to India or anything. Everybody lives here with the exception of one person, which we just hired him during the pandemic.
But does being in that city help with the lead? That has become now like the online entrepreneurial hub.
I think we have one client in town.
Wow. I wouldn't have guessed that.
We've had some come and go, but it's just weird. But yeah, the lead generation thing, we figured out that we can't do it running ads. Now it's kind of been bastardized as the LinkedIn prospecting aspect, which we took a page strictly out of Salesforce and their outbound engine, basically as software as a service. We're just like, why can't we just sell this the way that these enterprise companies do? So we went out and virtually pounded the pavement and just cold outreach, email campaigns, phone campaigns, direct mail campaigns, sponsorship campaigns, and just went that route. And that our outbound efforts drove about 80% of our growth for about 3.5 years. And then everybody and their brother started doing it. And it just became less and less and less and less effective. And it was harder and harder to cut through the noise. So we turned more towards direct sponsorships. So sponsoring a lot of events, live events, trade shows. We sponsor Traffic and Conversion Summit every single year. We've sponsored ad tech and Google events and e-commerce events, and you pretty much name it. We've tried it at some point. So we've never really seriously cracked the code of so many leads. Like, we can spend $1 or do this effort and get predictable amount of leads back, which is still the frustrating part and part of the thing that I work on every single week. But there's been something, kind of a shift that's happened more recently in that our brand equity has really played a role in the growth. It happened, I guess, a year or so ago. I was speaking at an event, walking through the hotel, up the escalator, away from the event. And I was quite a ways away from the event. And I was in a suit. I wasn't even in, didn't have any identifying gear or anything. And somebody yelled across. He's like, "Oh, hey, Conversion Fanatics." So that kind of clicked to me. It's like, okay, we're kind of getting something from a brand equity perspective. And I just kind of went down that road. So now people will be like, "Oh, hey, I heard from so-and-so that so-and-so said this about you," or, "Hey, I'm in this mastermind with somebody." So the word of mouth aspect, and when it relates to conversions and optimization and split testing, which is a very, very hot topic right now, my name is almost always brought up, or Conversion Fanatics is always almost brought up. So that has made the big transition. So all of our front-loaded efforts of, SEO and content and speaking at events and sponsoring events and all of these things, I think, have compounded and kind of built up, and having a good reputation have built up to where we're at now, in that there is something, for the longest time, I was all anti-branding, be like, what the hell do you want to brand for? We'll just drive some ads, and we're direct response people. We'll write a sales letter. We'll do this. And my tune has changed, particularly working with the larger brands that we get to work with. Brand is a lot, that carries a lot of weight that we don't normally see.
And I got to assume speaking does well for you, right? So I was one of the very first masterminds I ever went to. You were there, and you spoke. I was mesmerized by your greatness up front, right? And I think I wasn't the only one in the room that ended up hiring you off of that, right? And so I have to assume you going to be an authority figure, actually, less than sponsoring on stages, go stand on the stage, right, and talk about what you talk about. I have to assume that drives a ton of leads for you and a ton of clients.
It can, but I've taken a different stance on, when I go into a speaking engagement. So first of all, I say yes to almost all opportunities like that. You want me on a panel? Sure. You want me on your virtual summit? Awesome. I'm really just all about give without want. So I have lived by that my entire career. Is I'm so free with my information and helping people. I mean, the amount of free that I give away on a weekly basis is, people would think I'm an idiot for how much I do that. But I think because I go at it with that incentive. So like where we met in California, I did not come in there saying, oh my God, I'm going to walk away with some client relationships. I never go in with that intention. I go at it with that I'm just there to share what I know. Because I've been doing this a long time. As we've talked about, is the more I can share with people, the more it's going to reflect back on my business. And I don't care if it's a business that's just getting started and they're, maybe doing 5 or 10 sales a day and they're just struggling to get to that next level. If I help them today get from 10 to 20, that relationship might not happen today or tomorrow or next week. But I've had companies come back to me 2 years later and say, hey, remember me? You helped me back then. And now, it's you helped me back then. Now we're ready. We're 100 sales a day now, or whatever. We've grown so tremendously. Or, hey, meet so-and-so. It's my friend that I met, at this other event. So I think all of those elements, all of those elements adjusted and compounded really have taken us, to the next level, really.
I think giving it all away for free is the right answer, honestly. Like, especially if you have a done-for-you service on the back end. Like, if you're out there, and you mentioned panel, I totally forgot. I saw you at Brand Builder Summit too, like on a random panel. That's actually where I first met you. But like,
yeah, I was on that stage and had a booth and did all of that, but I didn't go into it like, the same thing. I just approached it. I've been on hundreds of podcasts. I've been on, I've given away probably 3,000 or 4,000 copies of my book, like given away, like a business card. Like, here you go. Here's a book. That's gotten me speaking engagements, like paid events. Like I had a company fly me out to Chicago one time to speak for 4 hours to their executive board, like flew me out first class, put me up in a 5-star hotel, paid me this big 5-figure sum, just because my book was on his bookshelf and he needed a speaker to speak to his executive team. It's just moving that free line, I guess is really where it's at. And,
I used to fight it, honestly. I used to fight giving away, like, you have to hold something back behind the paywall. And then I just started giving it away for free. And I've never had more people approach me to come work with me ever since then. I was recently on a Facebook Live where I literally just gave everything away that I teach. And you can't get through it in an hour, but I tried, right? And I tried to give it all away. And now I have 3 clients just from that one call right after that. And just honestly, I don't understand why people want to hold it back. It took me a long time to learn that lesson, but I'm glad I did. I'd love to just give everything away in my head for free and help as many people as possible.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to that too. And I even had, one very large company. I'm not going to talk to him, say his name, but I just talked to him yesterday. He hired a different company over us like a year ago, and he's coming back to us. He's like, "Well, that didn't really work out, and I remember you gave me this analysis that I did that was absolutely amazing." He's like, "I can't believe you gave that away for free." And I get that conversation a lot. It's just what I'm willing to share and give of my time is probably to a fault at a lot of times because it is my time, but I just think that's the way it needs to be done. I was once a young struggling marketer that didn't know what the heck I was doing. And I have all of this knowledge and expertise now. Why not share it? I've flown to Vancouver to speak at an event that had absolutely zero chance I would get clients out of it. Like zero. There was a room of 100 people. They were all brand new, basically heard about Shopify yesterday. I still have probably never gotten a client out of that deal. But what happened out of that is I met another one of the speakers that's become a very good friend of mine that's led to other business. And we're still friends to this day. So it's not like it was at a loss. Plus I got to go to Vancouver for a weekend, and get paid to speak. So it's like, there's just a lot of it. And I think there's just something to be said that, if you just actually care and want to give back and help in the marketplace, the rest of those things kind of work themselves out. And I wake up every single day and I don't care. We get to help 50 some companies on a weekly basis, plus all of the ones that aren't even paying us to do it, that we just help on a regular basis. And I wake up every single day and care about every single one of their campaigns. Why isn't that going this way? What's the strategy on this? And yeah, it does. It's a lot of work, but I just feel like that's what business has to be done. There has to be, and I've seen the other side of people that absolutely resent their employees that, are degrading and just all they care about is the dollars and cents. And, I don't necessarily care about the dollars and cents as much. They're important, but
they come.
That comes with all of the other things that we do.
Look, I want to extract all the free value I can out of you today, most specifically on like e-commerce store stuff. But I do have a quick question. So I had AJ Yeager on the podcast, 3-4 episodes ago.
AJ's great.
Yeah, we started talking about Golf Fuel. I met him at a mastermind as well. And then your name came up and I couldn't quite tie all that together, right? So I remember talking to you about Golf Fuel, about Revolution Golf. I was part of a golf company back when I met you. And so can you help me tie those loose ends together? What were you doing in that whole relationship?
So it's funny. The former founder of Revolution Golf is actually texting me right now.
There you go.
That's funny. I won't get into crazy details on their stuff, but I helped them write their initial sales letter.
So Golf Fuel or Revolution Golf?
Rev Golf. Before it was Rev Golf, it was something else.
So just for the listener, Revolution Golf is like just a bunch of videos, right? A bunch of content and a bunch of videos on how to improve your golf game?
Yep, content and instruction. It doesn't exist anymore. It's part of Golf Channel now. There's no such thing as Revolution Golf anymore.
NBC bought it, right?
Yep, NBC Sports. And so it was a bunch of information training, on-demand, membership type thing for golf instruction. So I wrote the original sales letter for something before it was called Revolution Golf. I did all their split testing and email marketing for a couple of years as well. Then because of that, Josh Bizzoni at the time had Golf Fuel, which he runs BioTrust Nutrition. That's his claim to fame. But he had Golf Fuel. AJ was part of that. And I had wrote a bunch of sales emails for a test because I was doing direct response copy as well at the time. So I wrote all of that stuff for kind of their email follow-up and email sequences. And I wrote a bunch of emails kind of in the character of Frank, I think is what they used it, and wrote them for Josh, and that came full circle. And then I think Revolution Golf bought Golf Fuel, and then something spiraled from there. But I've known AJ for years. Before he doesn't live in Austin right now. He lives in Utah, I think now. But he moved to Austin, and I had actually known him when he was still living in California. And he had hired me as a consultant to help his family business, which was, growing vegetables, aquaponics, and all of that stuff. So way back before he was the Praxis Metrics guy and all of the data and all of that stuff, he was actually a client of mine. So he came over to my house one year when he didn't have anywhere else to go for Christmas, I think, because he was new to town and all of that stuff. He came over and had Christmas with our family, or Christmas Eve dinner with us. But yeah, I've got to know them pretty well. But yeah, the whole golf thing just kind of happened with me. It actually started with the MLM world. I got hired to write a sales letter for a specific MLM company when I was building systems for MLM companies, like lead gen systems and funnels. And then he hired me to write a sales letter. And then he hired me to write a golf sales letter because he wanted to start that with that idea. And then I was partners on that for a while, and then did their email marketing and kind of moved up the ranks. And then they went about their merry way and absolutely ballooned up.
So did you exit before or after NBC acquired them?
Oh, way before. And I was a partner initially. And then I was just like, hey, we had an agreement at my previous company that we weren't going to do outside projects. So I just kind of backed out. So I didn't sell or do anything like that. It's just like, hey, we're still in the infancy here. Yes, there's something to this, but I can't have distractions. So I pulled myself out of that. And then I came back and was a hired gun and did all of their email marketing and split testing there, and did some on-site testing and experimentation for them for a couple of years. And then they brought everybody internally and did all of that stuff.
Well, I hired you as well. At our previous company, I had you basically come present what I saw you present to the mastermind, to me and my former partners. And then we brought you on, and you were there at least until I left the company as well. And so I saw a lot of what you did, and I want to share some of those things, right? So one of the very first things you ever talked about, and I mentioned this earlier, is there is no do this, it works on every e-commerce store. And I totally understand that, but I bet there is some principles that exist within e-commerce that, if we can give 3 things that the listener can go test on their e-commerce store, and then anybody who's wondering, how do I raise my conversion rates, hire this guy. It's plain and simple. I don't know what you charge now, but back when I hired you, you were less than the cost of most of our employees. And so if you're anywhere in that range right now, it is a no-brainer. If you're an e-commerce store owner and you're looking for conversion help, hire this man.
Yeah, we're in that range, but yeah, I mean, like you said, there's some best practices. There's only so many ways you can test a homepage, for example. There's only so much psychology that goes into it. But it isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. So, yeah, we've definitely taken a different approach to CRO, and more so we're focused mostly on the user experience optimization, going back to branding. We feel like it's less about your conversion rate and actual metrics there than it is about long-term sustainability and scalability and exponential growth, as Perry Marshall would call it. And if we can fix that user experience and make it so it's an enjoyable process for a user, then the rest of the elements are going to work themselves out.
Well, I work with a ton of clients who they focus on traffic, right? Traffic. And a digital marketer nailed this with their conference. It's traffic and conversion, right? So traffic's great. I love SEO. I could geek out on SEO all day long. Let's go find you 3 keywords that are going to bring you boatloads of traffic. But if that traffic doesn't leave the page you drove them to or work their way down their funnel, it's not worthless traffic, but it's pretty worthless traffic at that point. And so can you talk us through some principles of what people should be focusing on, beyond just the traffic to the website?
Well, that's what you say too, is traffic is for not to downgrade, everything that you do from an SEO or a paid perspective, but that's really the easy part.
I agree.
If you've got a terrible offer, It doesn't matter how much quality traffic you send to it. So I really focus on the less sexy side of things, and that's conversions and the psychology of it. So what I see people failing at is they rapid fire change things. They just change it because so-and-so did it, or, so-and-so site has this on their site. We just need to add it to ours. Instead of really understanding the wants, needs, likes, dislikes, friction points on the site that the visitor has. So as marketers, we get egos. We get blinders on. It's my way. I think this looks better, so therefore it should be better, instead of pulling yourself out and being, unbiased perspective, which is another thing we bring to the table is I don't care. I just care what the data is telling me. So having that, pulling the blinders off, they generally will see all of the friction points a lot easier when you can point them out, and they're usually very simple. So my philosophy on optimization is I want to understand the visitor's behaviors. I want to know what on every page holds the most weight. Do they care about social proof? Do they care about imagery? Do they care about graphics? Do they care about free shipping? Do they not? Do they care about split payment? Do they care about our guarantee, our ship times? All of these things that go into those buying decisions, which in Shopify, we have all of these great apps that, can make all of this stuff easy. It's like, oh, hey, yeah, I'm going to add a countdown timer to here. And when I say I don't really care about the conversion rate, is that really doesn't matter if your other metrics work out. Your conversion rate, you could sell the same product. One person needs 2% conversion rate. The other one needs 1% to make it work. It's all of your numbers specifically. So I go into a scenario. I say, okay, the visitors are here. They're coming in on mobile. They're this age demographic. They're this gender. They're searching for these key terms. They're seeing this on the site. They're falling off at this point. Okay, we've got friction here. Then I just look at all of the reasons why that is happening. And really what it comes down to is I just ask myself the question, why? A lot. I don't overcomplicate it any more than that. Why are the visitors clicking on that? Why are they not clicking on that? Why are they scrolling down the page and why are they not? Just all of those little things. And when I ask the question why, and then I just use split testing to prove whether I'm right or not, and whether that assumption is correct. And because of that, we know that conversion rate's going to vary. It's going to fluctuate as traffic spikes and fluctuates and all of those things. I'm looking to lift the entire ship. So I'm making it more enjoyable for the shopping experience and helping the visitors come into the store, find what they're looking for, understand what that product is and what it's going to do for them, and then help them make that buying decision and then hold their hand throughout the checkout process. And I look at it as kind of like a brick and mortar department store, or you go into the mall parking lot. The ad got you to the parking lot. Now we got to get you in the door, and we have to find what store you want to go to first and what you're shopping for specifically. Or you walk into Target, for example, and you get in the parking lot. Now you go through the doors, homepage, you then have all of these categories and these sections. I have to help you find what it is you're looking for and need. And then I have to direct you back to the register to check out. And I really just look at that and what, if I had a bunch of carts in the way on every aisle and, racks or this blocked off because of, a spill or something, those are roadblocks and friction points. And that's throughout the website too, is so many people try to cram so much into it and, for lack of better terms, growth hack their way to improvement instead of being methodical. I'll have companies come to me and be like, well, you only ran 6 tests last month. It's like, yeah, but we saw improvement on 3 of them, and now your conversion rate's 20% better than it was last month. And they're like, well, I wanted to run 40 tests last month. It's like, we have more enough traffic. Well, it's not more is better. It's the long game, exponential growth. It's understanding those behaviors, those wants, those needs in the eyes of the visitors. Because if we can deliver that to them better, they're going to come back more often. They're going to refer their friends. They're going to, contact customer support less often. All of these things we can't necessarily quantify as marketers. Drive an ad, we get X result. And it's the qualitative improvement that, we've seen 18% reduction in customer support complaints because we were able to answer a question more prominently on a product page. Or, all of these things we can't necessarily say like, hey, we had a direct impact on it. But I know that we're in the greater good of improving the overall cycle. And with that, the rest of the numbers are going to go up.
I think people just don't measure, right? Like there is so much information out there. If you go join Twitter and just start following people in direct-to-consumer Twitter, you're going to get 40 ideas a day of little tweaks that you should make on your website. And so you go make all 40 of those, and then tomorrow there's 40 more, and the next day there's 40 more, and you end up with this giant convoluted website that you didn't test whether any of those things helped you or not. You just heard they did. And so many of them are like not authentic. Like there's only 4 left. Order right now. Honestly, I bet that works. I bet it works in the short term, but I bet that alienates your customer base in the long term. And like, I'm all about authenticity. I'm all about like building a real relationship with your customer. And so, look, I want to give you like a real concrete example here without getting super specific. But so when I go into a consulting client, we often build audiences in analytics, right? We use those audiences in AdWords to, speak to people who showed interest in our website, right? Real basic stuff. On a recent client, we went in there and we built anybody who's only been to the website one time or less, and they bounced in less than 15 seconds. And it ended up being like 3/4 of their traffic came there one time or less and bounced in less than 15 seconds. And so immediately we went to like, what are their top landing pages, right? And so I want to know how you make these assumptions. So if we just break down their top landing page, what are the first few steps we do? Do we throw Hotjar on there? What are we analyzing to see why the heck people are coming one time and leaving in less than 15 seconds?
So it's usually common sense. If they're leaving at 15 seconds, then chances are your headline is terrible. So I would come in as we're getting heat maps installed. So I would do, get some heat maps, get some of that qualitative stuff, maybe throw an exit poll on there, say, hey, what question didn't we answer for you today? Which is the most powerful question you can really ask. Open-ended, lets them vent. And then I would test headlines, literally every benefit, every angle, every feature as part of that headline. Just test 20 different headlines and see which one they resonate with the most, because then you can come back. And this goes for product pages too. It could be the image that they see first. It's that first interaction. If you're driving an AdWords ad to a specific landing page, and maybe it's just a product page in an e-commerce store, there's very short window, particularly on mobile. You're going to see a navigation and a logo. You're going to see an image and maybe a title, in some cases a price. So you have to maximize what that visitor sees because you have 3 seconds or less to figure that out. So they clicked on an ad. So if AdWords specific, they clicked on an ad after they did a search for something specific. So they landed on this page and hoped to find a solution to their problem or what have you. And we're not delivering that. So I would potentially look at what the biggest other leverage points too are. Is that page the right page to send people to? I've seen massive improvements by sending it to a homepage versus a product page, specifically just because it allows more real estate to showcase who we are, what we do, and then funnel them again. We got them in the parking lot. Now we got to get them through the door. A lot of people I find underutilize their product page. Or their homepage, because it's usually higher engagement, it's usually a higher conversion rate on first interaction. Because I get the question a lot, be like, why do I care about my homepage? I'm not sending traffic there. Well, it's your visitors care. So that's really what matters at the end of the day. But I really just try to understand the questions, like what did we not answer and what friction points are there?
The very first thing you do is put Hotjar on there so that you can actually see what people are doing. Are they scrolling? Are they clicking on anything? And then step 2 is like, above the fold, that's all you care about in the beginning as far as like making assumption?
Yeah, so I look for, are the reviews there? Is the title in the reviews above the image? Is the price clear and concise? Is a value prop there? Do we know, is there a money back guarantee? What's the free shipping threshold? Can I easily select the product, the quantity, the color, the size, whatever? And I look particularly on mobile because, face it, most 80% plus are all mobile these days. Few exceptions, but it's really just what could cause that visitor to not make a decision right then and there. And is it, things like lifestyle images versus product shots versus a hybrid versus a technical spec type image, or a label of, the ingredients, if it's a supplement or something that has ingredients. It's all of those things, those little things matter. And it's just really understanding that. And I use experimentation to figure out what that particularly is, what that element is, and what holds the most weight. But that is, the biggest thing is just add Hotjar, look at your analytics data, test driving some traffic to a separate page. Specifically, that can give some more information in there, and then lead them to the product page. And just kind of expand it from there. But that qualitative data is vitally important. And I see a lot of companies just not doing it. Then they're not using exit polls. They're not, just understanding where these visitors are at, how far they're scrolling on the page. And are they seeing the prominent information that we need them to see?
Well, the how gets a little nitty gritty, but like the scrolling, right? That's a Google Tag Manager feature that you can put in there to see how far someone scrolled down the page.
There's that. And like heat map solutions will do that too. Heat maps will give us the insights that we need to scroll and click on mobile and desktop. We use Hotjar as kind of our primary solution. Does
Hotjar aggregate the data, or do you actually have somebody on your team watching video after video after video? Or simply
I don't do videos.
Map? Okay.
I don't play the video game. The screen recording thing, good God, I'd be watching videos all day, every day if that was the case. But only if we really need to get down and dirty on something, we'll look at those screen recordings. But usually it's just a scroll map.
They'll drive you insane anyway, right? When I first started, I put Lucky Orange on everything that I started. Every store I started, everybody I was talking to. I think most people are out of their mind when they're scrolling a website. I can't really tell what they're doing, right? They're clicking and like dragging images across and highlighting things, and they're totally operating the way I don't operate. And so
I know
the videos were super confusing to me. How do you use a heat map, right? So I can see, what links people are clicking. I can see, they're probably like some of the things I've learned personally is like images on your page, people are trying to click constantly. If they don't go anywhere, that's send them somewhere, right? But like, what else can you learn from a heat map? Just by throwing that on there, I think you're going to get a ton of data. What can we do with that data? What are like a few things you'd see every single time you put Hotjar on there?
Usually I look for the 50% drop-off point and what's below that drop-off point.
What does that mean?
What, like, important information. So you'll see a heat map, say on mobile, and it'll be blue, and then all of a sudden it'll drop to red, and it'll be 50%, or other way, it'll be red, it's super hot, and then it'll be down blue where it drops off. 50% of the users, only 50% of the users make it this far down the page. Okay. So if you have something prominent or some information, say a description of your product, and they're not getting there, or maybe they're not getting down as far as the call to action, you need to look about maybe placing that call to action someplace else, or maybe they're clicking on the navigation more because they have a question. That's some things we'll see is they'll immediately go on the page. You'll see a huge drop off, super high on the page, and then you'll see a bunch of clicks on navigation. So that just means that you didn't answer their question, or you didn't have something else for them, or a different path for them to go down. So we really just try to figure out what they're clicking on, where they're clicking. Are they clicking on spots that we don't think they are clicking on, but they are? Is something not prominent on the page? Where are they scrolling? What's missing above the fold that's a normal staple, like reviews, for example? Getting some element of reviews above the fold, a call to action, the price value, care instructions, guides, or anything that can help them kind of make that buying decision. And just really, again, going back to maximizing above the fold of the page. But usually you'll see some trends in that data, just like it'll validate what you're doing, particularly if you're doing experimentation and you're running split tests versus the control and the variant, and you have separate heat maps for both. You'll see, okay, they're interacting with that pop-up, or they're doing, this on the page because we did this. And you'll see that variance in the heat maps too. So it makes it a little more interesting that, we have all of that can see that qualitative kind of feedback. It's like, okay, they're behaving better. Or, another example is if I change this, I'll see that they're clicking more on the call to action. Or I'll measure secondary metrics like views on checkout or views on cart, or views on collection and click through and add to cart rate and all of those other secondary metrics that I can then validate with that qualitative feedback.
I think that's something I noticed on the company you worked with me on, right? It was, you weren't just trying to take the conversion rate from X to Z. You were actually focusing on how do we get the person to take just the next step, right? And so, a lot of work I do is SEO, right? So it's going to be a blog post or a collection page or something like that. And so you worked with us on similar things. How do we get someone to go from a piece of content onto the next phase? How do we get them to add to cart? How do we get them to go from cart to checkout? You actually broke it down into steps. And honestly, just talking to you about this makes my head hurt. I can understand, like, if anybody's listening and they're like, man, how do I test all of this stuff and pay attention to this? Like, again, go to conversionfanatics.com and sign up. Like, honestly, this is stuff I don't want to think about. I enjoy sending traffic and making it rain. But there's a genuine need for someone like you in every single business.
Yeah, and it's a lot of work. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a lot of the elements sound simple, but it's the how you actually execute on those ideas. And really, it just comes down to we ask the question why, and we split test a whole bunch of stuff to prove. But I think people get so hung up on the vanity metrics. In that, I'll have a conversation every single week. Somebody says, "Oh, I'm at a 1% conversion rate, and it'd be great if we're at a 3%." I'm like, "Yeah, you and everybody else." But that number to me is a relative number. It's not the holy grail, and you're not going to see your conversion rate go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 and infinitely go up. You're going to hit a cap. And what's the conversion rate? And it's like, and then I'm the conversion rate guy, so it's like, well, you didn't get our conversion rate up. It's like, yeah, but you made 40% month over month growth because of the X, Y, and Z, and your conversion rate didn't dip, but you got 80% more traffic. It's like, I mitigated your downside because your conversion rate, instead of being 2%, would have been 1%. And your average order value might have slipped or something else. So there's a bigger picture to it all that a lot of companies don't see too, in that it isn't just a siloed bucket. It is those micro commitments. It's the removing the friction point to get them to check out. It's, that automatic redirect that you have in there, or is it worth it to actually have the one-click upsell post checkout? Is it, all of these things that you need to answer, which I have that conversation this afternoon. That's why it's top of mind. Is I'm basically recommending to one of my clients to get rid of their one-click upsell post checkout, because they're building a brand now versus being very direct response. And we can make up that average order value scenario later on, instead of pissing off your customers because you give them 6 upsells after they've bought something from you. And they have a more of a heavy subscription element to it too. So it's taking that bigger picture view versus just saying, hey, I changed the button color and it raised my conversion rate. I want to know why it raised my conversion rate.
Well, and people shouldn't sleep on maintaining conversion rate, right? You kind of breezed over that, but that's the truth. Like, someone like me likes to come in and make it rain. Let's figure out how to build more content so it drives more organic traffic. Let's get your ads in better shape so it drives more traffic. And then all the time you should be testing, trying to find a winning ad that's going to bring in a ton of traffic. And if a guy like you is just sitting in the background, not taking it from 1 to 2%, but maintaining 1%, well, that traffic doubles. You essentially did double, right? And so, don't sleep on keeping it the same.
Yeah, and that's the thing that people see is you come in as a traffic guy. We make you guys' job so much easier because if the store's converting decently and you turn on 100% more traffic, and in say a month, you turn on 100% more, you scale that fast, and the conversion rate doesn't drop, which it will. Some metrics got to give.
Right.
If you dump a bunch more traffic and increase budget 100%, a metric's got to go. And it's our job to mitigate that downside. That's true scalability. And the company will come back to us and say, well, you didn't raise my conversion rate. I'm like, yeah, but you got all of this Like, do you not like money, or do you want conversion rate? I don't get it. And I have that conversation far too often, but at least some companies are starting to realize it. And yes, we see improvements, and it's like, it doesn't always translate directly to the bottom line. The conversion rate metric doesn't always translate to the bottom line. And just because you see an improvement on your collections page, or your product page, or your cart, doesn't mean now all of a sudden you got 30% more sales. Just because we saw a 30% improvement on that particular page, it's a bigger picture. It's like, hey, we got 30% more people that now take this step, and it's not the bigger picture, of your entire blended averages.
It takes a special person to play the long game too, right? A lot of people are thinking about right now. And again, you mentioned button color. That comes up a lot. Do you think my add to cart button is the wrong color? Like, I laugh a little bit every time I hear that question. And there's so much more to it, right? It's not about like, let's increase that conversion rate today. Let's play the long game of how we can grow this business long term.
And I tell people, it's like, I can increase your conversion rate. That's easy. I'll just add some timers to some stuff, add some fake scarcity. We'll use some tricks and some gimmicks and some kind of gray hat tactics, and I'll boost your conversion rate. But we're just going to piss off your audience, and you're not going to have a business in 6 months. You're going to blow out an offer. And I've had companies come to me like that and say, a couple, we mentioned failures earlier. It's like, where you have to force a relationship. It's like the company comes in, they're selling cheap crap from China, they're drop shipping. They want some help. We improve their conversion rate. All of a sudden, the market catches up with them that they have a 3-week ship time. And now the negative comments come in play, and then ads are less and less effective, and they immediately blame the conversion guy. When it is, they just blew out that offer and they blew out that market. And now Amazon caught up, and now they sell, instead of for $15, they're selling them for $5. It's just, if your business model and plan, and I don't work with those people anymore. I only work with brands that, understand it, and really are looking to improve and grow and scale and, exit and do all of these things, and IPO. And I've got one client talking IPO right now. And even public companies, it's much different ballgame when you play in that world. And I laugh and joke, you say they just want more. The new guy, the growth hack guy will be like, oh, if you didn't get me 300% improvement, you're a scam. Whereas the big companies, the big brands are like, oh, you got a 15% improvement this month? Like, oh my God, you're our heroes. That was our quarterly goal. It's like, it's the different mindset when you deal with companies that are truly in growth mode versus that scarcity, just starting out, hacking your way into it and hoping to, balloon up, which there are a lot of guys out there that are, finding a winning product, and they just hammer it to death, and they don't have anything other than that. And they're just, got lucky with a product, and they blew it up, and they're doing $250,000 a month, and they're, making their paychecks, and that's what it is. And it's much different when you're thinking that long game, for sure.
Well, I can't recommend you enough. Again, I worked with you. I will say ClickUp, man, what a headache, dude. I hope you guys move away from ClickUp. That was the most annoying notification system I've ever dealt with in my entire life. But beyond
Still
that,
there.
you guys made a real difference in the business I was a part of. I have to imagine you're working with companies with big names because you do good work. I'm curious, like, are you doing anything outside of this? Do you have interest in taking, ownership in people's brands so that you have a little more skin in the game? What else is Justin Christanson doing?
Yeah, I mean, I've got another brand that we kind of did based on, so crazy long story. Late last year, no, short story, but late last year, we've had a guy contact us to fix his site, local guy. We decided to invest in the company, took a partnership. He was a snake, didn't do our due diligence. He basically stole it back from us, stole our investment, did a bunch of stuff. So we, through legal, and all of that fun stuff, we got the customer list. So we spun up an e-commerce store in that niche, and just kind of limping along. It's kind of set and forget, it's in apparel, a specific niche apparel, just print on demand stuff right now, and set and forget, does, $10,000 a month in sales. And once in a while I'll log on there and blast an email out to the list, but we basically just spun it up to get our money back out of the customer list. And we might put some attention on it later on, but right now I'm just all hands on deck, everything I can do for the agency. We've seen some pretty incredible growth this year. And fortunately, we're actually stronger and better than we were even at the end of last year. Just simply because we had made some cuts, not even in anticipation of obviously a viral pandemic that we're going on right now, but we had made some cuts and some adjustments and figured out a new way to do business that was more efficient. Learn and evolve. And luckily we did, because then we got hit with the pandemic, and it forced us to find some inefficiencies that we had where we were struggling and where we needed to fix. And luckily we fixed it. And then when the growth hit, we came out stronger on the other side, and actually with less staff and more effective. But you mentioned ClickUp. That's evolved quite a bit since its early days. They've come out with many, many different things that it's way better. Basically, we told them everything that was wrong with it is now right with it. So we fixed a lot of those.
I think it was just a lot of notifications that frustrated me. It was a ton of them.
We help. So we actually, that's part of our process now. We help our clients adjust their notification settings. We actually have a video on that in the onboarding process. But just those little things like that, like you were annoyed with it. You're not the only one. But we fixed a lot of those elements that.
So, sorry to interrupt. What stops you from building a brand, right? I would assume you could essentially start one for free. Wouldn't that just be like R&D? Couldn't you start your own brand, test all your conversion stuff on it, and write the entire project off?
We have. We started a supplement brand a couple different times. Then we ended up tabling it because we just get so busy on the core, And, there's only so much marketing you can do in the day. If the right opportunity came along, we'd probably jump on it and see where that kind of led us. Because we have the resources. It's not like it's the end all, but I kind of have an end vision for where Conversion Fanatics is going, and just kind of want to see it out. And just given my schedule and everything that we've been doing, there's a lot to it. And other interests outside of necessarily marketing and things that I want to do with some of my time and money. And there's only so many hours in the day, so I got to have a little home life too. But right now, Conversion Fanatics is keeping us busy, and we're seeing where the ride takes us.
Well, I think there's quite a few people listening, if I'm honest, and I can think of a few right off the top of my head that need you, and they need you badly. Who is the perfect customer for you? Can you describe, who is the perfect customer and why you'd be a good fit for them?
E-commerce businesses usually, this is primary, probably 80% of what we do. We do some lead gen stuff and some SaaS and some subscription kind of model stuff too, but mostly e-com. Usually $1 million plus revenue. It's kind of where we start to make an impact and justify it at that level. We can help some of the smaller ones, but usually 20 sales a day plus is kind of where we can start getting the ROI. But I'll be the first to tell them if I can't get an ROI.
Well, and 20 sales plus assumes a smaller average order value, a smaller product, right? Like the company you work with me was from, high ticket drop shipping is where I came from. That's a lot of people I work with too. And so, I don't want you to alienate anybody that's in that industry, right? Where they're making a couple sales a day and they're doing well over $1 million in revenue.
Yeah. So that's a different, I kind of give them an either or situation. You're not obviously a couple sales a day, but you have all of those secondary commitments too, that are the big journey when you're dealing with high ticket and your conversion rate sub 1% and you're driving a boatload of traffic and, that type of scenario. There's definitely need and want there. And, we've got companies selling, water purification systems that are, $3,000. They have less conversions, but there's still a lot you can do in that journey.
Well, I can't recommend you enough. Honestly, where's a good place for people to get a hold of you? Like, are you on any social media platforms, or is it simply conversionfanatics.com?
No, conversionfanatics.com and onespotsocial.com/Justin Christianson, all one word. You can find me on social there. It's kind of my online business card to have all the links. You can view all my videos that have been put up on YouTube and all of that.
I don't think I've ever heard of that. Is that like a Linktree kind of thing for social media?
Yeah, it's just a free service that used to be called Clixo, but now it's called One Spot Social. Just an online business card. I just have my bio and a picture and then some links over to YouTube and LinkedIn and all that stuff.
Well, if you have any interest in CRO for your e-commerce business, get in touch with this guy. Justin, I appreciate you coming on, buddy.
I appreciate you having me.
Thanks so much to Justin for joining me on the podcast. I hope you guys found some golden nuggets in there to work on in your e-commerce store. Again, as I said in the beginning of the podcast, go to thebkshow.com. Sign up for my newsletter. Leave a review on iTunes, whether you've left one before or not, that's fine. And send me an email, info@thebkshow, showing me the review on iTunes. I'll see that you're on my mailing list, and I'm going to give away 10 copies of Justin's book. All the links will be in the show notes. You can check out Justin on social. You can check out Conversion Fanatics. And if you think your company is a good fit for Justin, but you want to ask some more questions, I'm an open book. So feel free to reach out to me directly. I'd be happy to talk about my experience with his company and what I think they can do for your company, and happy to make a warm intro for you as well if that's something you would like. So feel free to reach out. Make sure you follow Justin. And again, sign up for that newsletter. Leave a review on iTunes. Get yourself entered in to grab a free copy of his book. And I will see all of you next Wednesday.